Are you ready to get empowered? Of course you are. Well, you picked the right time and the right place. It's time now for Phrantceena, Halres and the Empowered Family Talk program. Spend the next hour with Phrantceena and learn things that you need to know.
I am Phrantceena Halres, and this is Empowered Family Talk.
Good afternoon. Welcome back to Empowered Family Talk to all of our wonderful listeners and sponsors out there in Jacksonville, Florida. And today we have a scripture that we'd like for you guys to write down in reference to our topic, and that is 1 Corinthians 10:31 and Colossians 3:17. And that is a segue to our topic today as we talk about we the peoples paying it forward here in the 21st century within our law enforcement in our local communities. Are we prepared? We have a special guest with us today who is prepared. And I am delighted to be joined today by Chief Carson Tranquil here in Jacksonville, Florida. Welcome to the microphone and to the table, Chief Carson at Tranquil.
How you doing? Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for being here. In preparation for our talk today, I had a few of our listeners submit questions for us. But before we get into that, I'd like to read a statement as we talk about running for political office. Some of our clergy and our church folks sent in a couple statements for us to consider during our talk today. And I'll quote as follows here. The question from the excerpt is, should a Christian run for political office? And the answer is, for some Christians, the answer is a definite no. But for others, it's a definite yes. This is a personal decision that requires prayer and the wisdom only God can provide, and which he promises to grant to those who truly seek it. Christian politicians must remember that their duty to the Lord must take precedence over the duties of their office. In the scriptures, Paul tells us that whatever we do, we are to do it for the glory of the Lord and not our own.
That's correct.
If a Christian does seek to run for a political office, it should only be if he or she can faithfully execute the duties of that office to the glory of God and not without compromising Christian principles. Unquote. So that is our topic submittal for today. And Chief, I want to give our listeners just a brief history about how you are prepared and as a Christian politician. Chief Carson, let's learn a little bit about him. He retired from Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, and he's running for the city council to continue his long history of public service to the residents in District 2. As a former zone commander and patrol division chief for the area and the current community leader, Chief Carson knows the district and its residents very well. He can provide the determined leadership to bring new economic opportunity and improved public safety. Chief Carson served more than 30 years in some of the sheriff's office's most demanding positions. He supervised JSO's SWAT team, the gang unit, the bomb squad, and hostage negotiator unit, among dozens of other leadership assignments. As District 2's zone commander, he was responsible for all of the area's police functions and more than 190 officers. He's a father. He's a grandfather, and he's a former trustee of the church and former homeowners association president. But Chief Carson knows this campaign is about the residents of District 2 and the leadership that they deserve on Jacksonville City Council. Welcome to the table, Chief Carson Tranquil. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Again, thank you so much for inviting me.
Well, thank you for being here, and I'd like for you to share with our listeners a little bit about who you are, where you've been, where you are, and where you're trying to take us today in District 2 and leading by example as the new sheriff in town.
Well, I'm not running for the sheriff position. I'm running for city council.
City council.
I came to Jacksonville 30 years ago in 1988, and I joined the sheriff office. I've was promoted through the ranks, and to the highest rank that I've achieved was division chief. My law enforcement background is extensive because I've worked all over, and I worked all over but more importantly, I've had command of the patrol division. The city is divided into two divisions, Patrol East and Patrol West. And for 3 years, I was division chief of Patrol West, and for 2 years, I was division chief of Patrol East. What's important with that is Patrol East, part of District 2 is part of Patrol East. And of course, part of Zone 6 is part of District 2 also. So I know the area very, very well. In addition to that, I've done so many other things that in while I was in position with the sheriff office, which prepares me for this pursuing to be a member of the city council. Now, I am not one position only. I'm very diverse because I also have a real estate license. I've practiced real estate, and also I have a paralegal degree. So I think we do have all of those things in the different numerous and hundreds of hours of training and different leadership classes I've attended have prepared me well for this position.
Well, let me ask you about security and safety. Your public safety background certainly has been a segue, and we look at the crime in Jacksonville alone, and we look at the church and our young folks. How does your background in being a sheriff, being the chief, and SWAT team, bomb team, negotiating, those are skills in the 21st century that our young folks need in the community represented on the city council. Now, how do you believe that is an asset of value add to your candidacy for city council with that city background, sheriff background?
Well, the main one, being commander of the SWAT team, negotiators, those segues allow me to understand the budget because those areas are very expensive. There's a lot of equipment that is purchased, and we have to be very cautious on how we spend the money and be a good steward of the cities, of the citizens' money.
Exactly.
But more importantly, though, being a division chief was the most important one because as a division chief, I was in charge of monitoring the crime rate in these divisions, either Patrol East or Patrol West. So every day, every hour, I was monitoring and I was in charge of making sure that we address the crime issues that were happening in that area. So I spent many sleepless nights worrying about the safety and the security of the people in District 2 and also the rest of the city. So that's the segue because I am a servant leader. So therefore, I believe that was my calling to be a servant and to continue to serve.
Well, I certainly admire your tenacity because most of the time after retirement of 30 years in a position, folks are looking to go to the beach and lay down. But you said, no, I've got to serve my community in District 2. You want to continue that plight. Now, in District 2, what are some of your challenges that lay ahead for you? And what are the opportunities that lay ahead for you in District 2 and in your plan of action?
Well, in District 2 is unique because it crosses the river. That is the only district that crosses the river. So you have part of it is on the north side, which is around the Ocean Way area, the area that's growing very, very rapidly. And the other part of it is around the Fort Caroline area, Kernan Boulevard, and things of that nature. So you're looking at two different sides of town that have different needs and need to be looked at and managed differently. So therefore, because of my experience as the zone commander for Zone 2, I know that side, one side of town, which is Fort Caroline, Kernan Boulevard, all that area, I know it very well. Also because I actually live on the other side, on the north side, so I know that area not only as a law enforcement officer, but also as a resident that frequent the stores and all the establishments in that area, so I know it very well also. But crime, is the impact that I would have the most, directly and indirectly.
Yes.
The second part is infrastructure. That's what we need to look at, especially in the north side, because we have a lot of growth that's going on, and also believe it or not, also in the Fort Caroline area, there's a lot of homes that are still on septic tank and they also have well. So all of those things need to be looked at, and we need to look at it, very closely to make sure that we're moving forward and set a timetable that we're going to accomplish what we need to accomplish. And because of the growth on the north side, we need to manage the growth to where it doesn't get out of control, to where it doesn't get to a point where people say, what's going on? Because we are a city, and as a city council people, we need to manage those things, and it's our responsibility to make sure it's being managed properly.
Well, I certainly admire that. This question I have, when you mentioned crime, infrastructure are your key, especially on the north side, because you have a lot of land on that north side, and a lot of open land for growth and development. Now, how do you feel that crime is impeding infrastructure, or lack of infrastructure is increasing crime? Do you think they go hand in hand in any way?
No, they do not.
Okay.
When I meant the infrastructure deals with basically roadways. Because of the growth, you have evacuation routes. If you have a lot of homes that's being built, and say a hurricane is coming, we declared a state of emergency and everybody has to be evacuated. Well, if you got only a 2-lane road, one going east, one going south, and everybody's trying to get out in one lane, that's not going to happen. It's going to be very, very problematic. So therefore, we got to look at those as we build new subdivision where we're going to have 4-lane roads instead of 2-lane roads. So we got to look at those infrastructure. We got to make sure that those individuals that are in septic tanks, because they are getting older and older, that those septic tanks, if they fail, they get replaced. Now, when we're talking about crime, to deal with crime is the 3-legged stool. You have enforcement, intervention, and prevention. The sheriff office, which I'm no longer part of, is totally responsible for enforcement. But the intervention and prevention part, as a city council, we and the mayor, we have an opportunity to contribute to that, and we have a responsibility to make sure that we take action to help in that area. One thing I know very well as a former patrol chief, there were a lot of things that I wanted to do, but they were not directly related to law enforcement. It needed funding. It needed someone to initiate the legislation that's required to address those issues in reference to intervention and prevention. So because of the things that I know and the things I've done, I feel I'm going to be a very influential in part of the council. And at this time, I feel that the council need a subject matter expert in law enforcement at this point.
Exactly. And that's really what I like about that. We're going to take a quick short break here, Chief Tranquil. And when we come back, I'd like for you to talk more about, you mentioned intervention for prevention in our neighborhoods, and particularly District 2. And let's talk about some of those ways that you're going to introduce to the council solutions and opportunities to improve our intervention and prevention within our local communities. Let's take a quick break, and we'll come back and we'll be joined again by Chief Carson Tranquil.
Want to empower families and young people in your community? Then take the time to make a tax-deductible contribution to the Coach Thate Fund. The Coach Thate Foundation is dedicated to helping young people and their families in learning and passing on the kinds of life skills that we all need to succeed. All too often, we hear about kids and their families having encountered life's difficulties that could have been easily avoided by knowing better decision-making skills. From anger management to money management to something as simple as learning to manage how we spend our time or how we use our job skills. Make a donation to the Coach Thate Fund. It'll help kids who need help and their families too. Make your contribution to the Coach Thate Fund. Get details at www.coachthatefoundation.com. And oh, by the way, thank you. Empower your family with the dynamic new book by Phrantceena Halres, Our Sixth Sense and Purpose, The Power in Knowing Who You Are. It's the book that gives you insights into life's problems. Phrantceena Halres is an author, motivational speaker, and national broadcaster who believes the answers to your problems lies within the knowledge that was once traditionally passed down by families. But that knowledge has been short-circuited by today's faster pace. The book, Our Sixth Sense and Purpose, The Power in Knowing Who You Are, brings that accumulated wisdom to the problems that all families face. You'll find your copy of Our Sixth Sense and Purpose, The Power in Knowing Who You Are at Amazon and at better bookstores. Empower your life with the dynamic new book, Our Sixth Sense and Purpose, The Power in Knowing Who You Are by Phrantceena Halres.
Welcome back to the second segment here of Empowered Family Talk with our special guest, former Chief Carson Tranquil, running for District 2 City Council here in Jacksonville, Florida. Welcome back to the table, Chief. And before we left for break, we were talking about intervention and prevention. And as we go back to the core responsibility that starts in our households, because when every city councilman and every sheriff or police or law enforcement officer leave their position, they go home and they take off those uniforms and they take off those guns and those suits and ties, and they're sitting down having a conversation with the neighbors and the church folks, which is where all issues start and end. What do you think the greatest prevention solution opportunity is to include our youth within our communities to become better citizens in implementing prevention measures? Chief Carson.
Well, that's a great question and segue. There are so much you can do, and it's only limited by the resources. When I say resources, the money that's available. But there are some simple things that we're going to do. Some of the things that I know I will implement. I'm going to start with trying to start a parenting class for new mothers and fathers for them to learn after their first and the second child, because there are so many parents that do not have the basic skills of raising a child.
Exactly.
And the Bible says, raise a child in the way that they should go, and when they get older, they will not depart from that. So it is our responsibility to raise them in the right way.
Right.
So as they get older, you don't have to worry about that. They will be raised. But at the same time, the parents have to know what to do to raise them in the right way. Because once a child get a certain age, if you have not instilled in them the values of respecting police officers, respecting their elders, and doing the things that they need to do, you can't instill that in them when they're 13 and 14. That's already lost. Exactly. You have to start doing that from an early age. And those are the things that we want to try to tell the parents as they start raising their kids. And the reason why. And there's some other things, when can they spank their kids? If it's legal or not legal. What other resources are available if they see some signs of any kind of mental issues and things of that nature. So therefore, they need to look at those things. So those classes will give them opportunity to talk to the local professionals such as judges, police officers, doctors, state attorneys, and things of that nature. And they can ask those questions that they have, so they can educate themselves, so they can make the right decision when it comes to their child.
Well, I certainly applaud that plan of action. That's a good one.
The second one, I will continue to participate in Big Brother, Big Sister. Presently, I am a Big Brother, Big Sister. I have a mentee that I mentor. And, of course, because of this campaign, I have not been able to do as much time. But as soon as this is over with, I will re-engage like I should be. But all of us, if we got time, we should try to give back by engaging and trying to find out who in the community that you mentor and help out.
Exactly.
Also, I would make sure that I visit the schools in my district and other districts where kids need to see role models. And so therefore, and you get opportunity to talk to them and explain to them things that they should stay away from and what they should do and why they should do it. And they also need that because they need a role model. They need, if their parents are not their role model, even if they have the parents that are role model, it never hurts to have an additional person that they can look at and say, oh, I can do that too. Exactly. If he can do it, I can do that too. Or I can be better. And someone that could come to them and say, listen, you can do anything you want to be. So those are the things I believe that I will be that I believe are effective in deterring crime. But that's the grassroots effort of doing that. Of course, also working with the school to provide a robust after school care or activity to keep your children occupied until the parents come get them or until the parents go home, because a lot of kids, when they get off, between the time they get out of school and the time the parents go home or make them come home, those are the times they get in trouble.
Exactly.
So if you give them some type of activity, they do a little bit of homework and then they engage in some activity that keep them busy, and it's productive. Probably teach them some skills or some other things that would be helpful. I think those things will work. Those are some basic. I have a lot of other ideas, but I don't think we have enough time to cover all of them.
I'm sure we don't, because you're leading by example. And, Chief, I've been a law enforcement professional myself, and in 5 states at the nuclear security plants, we worked a lot with chief of police and sheriffs. And, if a nuclear plant blows up, all law enforcement comes in, including all the city council. And so what we learned is we were able to look at city councilmen as those role models that you're talking about. These kids need to understand that if there's some discrepancy in the rights that they have in their communities, that there's a role model that they can look to. Chief Carson Tranquil is a role model. He's on the city council. They can look and channel that energy in a positive way instead of a negative way. And we need to show that more in our communities. And that's one of your initiatives, is to be that role model that these kids can see for the future leaders. So that's very important. Now, I'd like to also ask you about the folks in your district are listening today in District 2. And I want you to at least share with them what you believe is going to be the successful model that you bring to the table to bring economic security into District 2.
Well, the economic security to District 2 will take me working. Number one, let me state it this way. As a city council person, I'm a recruiter for the city. Therefore, it is my job to actively look and see what kind of businesses that we can attract to the city.
Exactly.
Secondly, is to also work with the Chamber of Commerce, the Chamber, and also DIA to see what they need me to do and how can I assist them in their effort to attract new business to the city. In addition to that, lastly, of course, is to be able to look at and approve any type of incentive that is sensible that we can give a new business when they come into the city, so they can bring that business and the jobs into the city, as long as it does not negatively affect the present companies that are here already.
Exactly.
Because we don't want to bring somebody in and undercut them. So therefore, we got to make it smart. We got to manage it. But I believe the number one thing is that I need to be a recruiter for our city and bring in the right type of business, the right type of job, so our economy could grow and our tax base could grow.
Absolutely. Amen. And I tell you what, Chief Carson Tranquil, you have my vote. District 2 is going to have a strong leader at that table. And we need to ensure that everyone knows about you and anything else that you need to share today with our listeners and your supporters right now. And those new supporters that are coming on between now, March 19th is the date?
The election is March 19th.
Yes, let our listeners know the details here.
The election is March 19th, and early voting is going to be starting pretty soon. I don't have the date exactly. I should have that, but if you can go to the supervised election, and you'll see when early voting starts. I believe it starts March 4th, if I'm not mistaken. Also, you can call in for a ballot, and that can be sent to you. And that will start in a few days. I think February 6th, that will start.
February 6th.
Yeah. So just make sure those are the ways that you can vote and participate in your democracy. But lastly, you had asked me what gives me a competitive advantage from my competition.
Yes.
Well, one of them is my law enforcement, my extensive law enforcement experience.
That's your competitive difference.
My education. I have a master's degree, I have a paralegal degree, and I have hundreds of hours of training, not only in just regular tactical training, but also in leadership training. My life experience, the things that I've done, and what I've experienced as a law enforcement officer. Also, I have a strong competitive spirit. In my law enforcement career, we have to compete for each rank. And the person that scores the highest gets promoted earliest. Yes. So therefore, I've always competed. So I'm a person that's going to fight for you because I want Jacksonville to be on top and be first.
Yes.
Lastly, I want to tell you, my supporters, what I need.
Yes.
I want to tell you why. Also, I want to serve. I have the leadership. That's the reason you should vote for me, because I want to serve. 30 years ago, I took the oath to protect and serve. I cannot protect anymore because I'm retired, but I can still serve. So I have a strong desire to continue to serve. I have the leadership skills. Yes. I can solve problems and mediate issues. I'm not running for personal gain. I am qualified. I am prepared. I had the vision necessary to make the changes. And I'm the right person at the right time, because our city's crime problems and negative reputation as it relates to crime needs action at this point.
Yes.
And I'm pledged to do that. So please, on March 19, please vote for me. Or if you do early voting, please vote for me. Remember me, Carson Tranquil.
Yes. Now, you know what, Chief Tranquil, I got to always talk about the money. Now, we've got a fundraise for the chief. We know this is not a inexpensive undertaking.
No, it's not.
So I always appeal to our listeners and Chief Tranquil supporters. Let's go in our pocketbooks and donate to his campaign. Let's ensure that he has everything he needs to represent you in this upcoming election. Now, Chief, can you share with our listeners how can they reach out to your campaign to make a donation to your campaign?
All you have to do, the only thing you have to do, go to VoteChiefCarson.com. That's one word. VoteChiefCarson.com. It will take you to my website, and as soon as you get to the website, there's a big red letter there. Area there that says donate, and just hit that, and you just follow the instructions. Again, go to VoteChiefCarson.com. And I appreciate any donation you give. Thank you.
And we all appreciate that. We've got to get Chief Tranquil at the table. Chief Carson, Tranquil at the table. Let's go make those donations to him. Show him your love. Show him your support. Put your money where your mouth is, and I'm sure he'll appreciate it, and we'll fight for you in 2019 and beyond. Thank you, Chief, for such a great time with you, and we look forward to supporting you in your efforts. And keep God first and serve as you have been called to do. And we will be behind you and support you in any way we can. And thank you again. And we thank WYMM, Caribbean Power Radio Station, for certainly being here, giving us this platform to raise up our new leaders and our mentors and champions within our District 2 and other districts in Jacksonville, Florida. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for allowing me to come and speak.
Thank you very much. And we have a blessed day, and we'll do a close. Thank you. I'd like to leave our listeners with a closing poem that is relevant to our family teaching on which road should the child choose. And there are many roads that lead to many different destinations in life, but it's oftentimes that road not taken that takes us where we need to go. And I'd like to read and close with the poem by Robert Frost, The Road Not Taken. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both, and be one traveler. Long I stood, and I looked down one as far as I could to where it bent in the undergrowth. Then I took the other road as just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim because it was grassy and wanted where. Though as for that, the passing there had warned them really about the same. And both that morning equally lay. Oh, I kept the first for another day. Yet knowing how way leads on to another way, I doubted if I should ever come back. I shall be telling this with a sigh, somewhere ages and ages hence. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by. And that has made all the difference. Until next week, same time, same station. I am Phrantceena Thate Halres, your hostess.
You've been listening to Empowered Family Talk with your hostess, Phrantceena Halres. Be sure and join us next week and every week at this time for the program that brings you practical answers to the questions of the 21st century. For Empowered Family Talk, I'm Jack Bishop.